All right, welcome to a week on complete altruism. So, complete altruism is a moral perspective, a moral outlook where you give all of yourself to others. You completely devote yourself to the well being of others. Your focus is on the goals, the plans, the fulfillment, the satisfaction, the happiness, the spiritual development, whatever positive components of human life you can think of. The complete altruist is focused on that for others, is focused on doing what he or she can to help other people achieve whatever it is that is their highest state, whatever is contributes to their well-being. So this is the exact opposite of a radical egotist. The radical egotist is focused simply on him or herself. The only thing that matters for the radical egotist is his or her well-being, his or her plans, his or her goals. Nothing else counts. And if other people have to be killed, ignored, used in order to achieve the radical egotist plan, so be it. The complete altruist, in a certain sense, does the opposite. The complete altruist uses his or her life for the benefit of others. The complete altruist will sacrifice his or her life for the well-being of others. Now, even though they are radically different, they are fundamentally opposed in terms of their intention, in terms of their outlook. It is important to note that a radical egotist and a complete altruist may do the same thing. The complete altruist will always do things that are devoted to others, will always do things that increase their well-being. Whereas the radical egotist is focused on himself. But you could imagine a scenario in which the radical egotist says, at least by appearing to care for others, at least by doing things for others, if I devote myself to that, I may be looked upon as a saint, as a hero. I may gain great renown and great respect. And so the radical egotist and the complete altruist may end up doing the same things, but for fundamentally different reasons. Okay, so this is the subject of this week, devotion to others. This is what we want to study. We want to ask if it is a good or bad perspective. What are the benefits of it or the positive rationales for it? And what are the negatives and inefficiencies and bad consequences that come from holding this view of complete altruism? So we're going to study this, at least in this week, through two case studies. One of the case studies is The Giving Tree. The Giving Tree is a children's story. Many of you may have read this or have this read to you as a child. And it's a really interesting book. It's really, something that goes far beyond what meets the eye. It's essentially a story about a tree and a boy. And as the boy grows up, he continues to ask the tree for things that he wants in his life: a house, a boat to sail away, money in order to buy things, so on and so forth. And it's somewhat obvious, but just to kind of reinforce the point, this is a metaphor. It's not talking about an actual boy and an actual tree. The story should be read metaphorically, in the sense of a relationship, in the sense of the boy growing up and the tree as someone who either loves the boy, maybe a parent, a guardian, a close friend. So think about the tree in those terms. And the tree, the story ends with the tree essentially giving itself all away. It is nothing but a stump. It's given away its trunk, its apples, its branches, so as to support the boy. And at first glance, it appears the boy is pretty selfish. And upon further glance, it also appears the boy is very egotistical, very selfish, and not a good person. It is hard to defend the boy. One might say this is just a metaphor for life, that we use others, that we, our parents, we're simply going to take from them because that's just natural. But it is difficult to make an argument that the boy is not immoral. With a tree, the first impression for many people, most people probably, is that the tree is good, that the tree is in fact beyond good. The tree is a saint. The tree is the ideal, what we should aspire to be: completely generous, completely loving, completely self-sacrificial, completely devoted to others. But when you look a little further, it gets very, very interesting. as to whether this tree is completely altruistic, and if it is, whether that is a good thing in a moral sense. One might wonder, does the tree give to the boy simply in order to satisfy its desire for the boy to come back? Is the tree more focused on kind of getting this fix of a good feeling that it gets when the boy comes, rather than focusing on the boy's well-being? And this is really where the moral question comes in. If the tree is a parent, if the tree is a guardian, if the tree is a good friend, did the tree actually help the boy? In one sense, absolutely, the tree gave the boy the physical things that the boy wanted. But in another sense, in an emotional and spiritual and developmental sense, it's not quite as clear that the tree actually helped the boy. The boy didn't seem to ever become satisfied or fulfilled. The boy never seemed to get out of his very egotistic and self-absorbed worldview. The boy never demonstrated gratitude or respect towards the tree. And so in that regard, you could say, look, the boy didn't become a better person, didn't become a good person, and wasn't satisfied and wasn't fulfilled. And in those important senses, the tree perhaps enabled the boy to live a selfish and egotistic and ungrateful and materialistic life. And instead of helping the boy, the tree enabled this worse form of existence. And certainly one could critique the tree on those grounds. And that's really where it gets interesting. Some people really defend the tree, say no, the tree is representative of a model, loving, good parent. Some argue that the tree was an enabler. But either way, the debate is really interesting, and how you form your own views and develop them is what really matters. The story also asks us to consider, is generosity always good? Is it always a good thing to be generous? It's not clear based on the story that it is. One can make an argument that it is. One can make an argument that it's not. One has to ask, well, to whom am I being generous? Is the generosity helping the person? Or is it simply my responsibility to give, and what the person does with that generosity is completely on them? Again, this is helpful in terms of further analyzing the concept of generosity. So that's the giving tree, and I look forward, and there's other aspects and components to it, but I look forward to the discussion boards and hearing how you talk about it, or if you're watching this video based on an in-class session, what we discussed in class. The other story that we're reading, our excerpt from this week, is about Jesus, and it's this parable about the woman who washes his feet with very expensive perfume. And she buys this perfume, and essentially it costs about half a year to a year's worth of working person's wages. So think about if you bought an engagement ring for your girlfriend, if you're going to buy a ring, and you spent half of your year's wages or a whole year's wages on this ring. I mean, it better be pretty spectacular. It better be pretty beautiful. But whatever it is, it's a huge sum of resources that go to this thing. And the woman buys this very, very expensive perfume. And keep in mind, in Jesus' time, it's very dirty, it's very dusty, there's no showers, so anointing someone with oil is a sign of great respect, as well as something that helps with hygiene and would probably feel pretty good. And so she comes in, the disciples are there, Jesus is there, and she washes Jesus' feet, anoints his feet with this oil. And Jesus' disciples get kind of perturbed by it. They get a little upset by it. And they say, look at how much money you spent on this oil. It would be better put to use by buying things for the poor. Food for the poor, shelter for the poor, clothing for the poor, whatever. Not on this item of luxury. So the disciples say, look, morally speaking, this is a waste of resources. And it's very interesting what Jesus does. He defends the woman. He says, kind of leave her be. And so that makes you question, is Jesus endorsing an immoral action? Is Jesus saying luxury is more important than serving the physical, basic needs of the poor? It is a kind of a thought-provoking. And I think what Jesus is ultimately doing here is talking about love. What this woman did was an act of love. She wanted to thank Jesus, show her gratitude to this person that absolutely transformed her life and was deeply monumental for her personal well-being and salvation. And so this is coming not, to kind of show off or to spend wastefully, but as her way of expressing her deepest gratitude towards this figure. And because it's expressing this deepest gratitude, it seems to be an act of love. And it is on this ground that Jesus seems to defend the woman. And it makes you think, it makes you wonder. Is the point simply to give all of yourself to as many people as possible? To simply do what is the objectively, universally right thing to do in a kind of moral sense? Or does love at certain points means that you devote more of yourself to those that you love, that you're more focused on those that you love, that you sometimes don't do something that may help a greater amount of people for the sake of the individuals in your lives that are most important to you? And how does that relate to complete altruism? Is it egotistic? Is it saying that complete altruism is good when it's focused on those you love, but not when it's just giving to everyone in general? Those are questions that, again, you will ask and we will think about and we will discuss.